living with Parkinson's, a daily journey with struggles and small victories. From start to finish, the journey is about grit, determination, and love for one another. With reflections on the recent Portland to Coast Relay, here's Heather Kennedy with It's Not About the Race.
As Ram Dass said, we are all just walking each other home. So today isn't about stats or padding egos or trekking distance or beating an opponent. This is a love story. This is about what happens when we have to dig deep for others and keep showing up, even when it's impossible, even when our very bodies say, nope, not today. Yes, today. And I'll be bringing you this podcast as seen through the eyes of Kevin Kwok, who is a representative of Davis Phinney in many organizations, helping people with Parkinson's live better now. Kevin shared his reflections with me over the past 24 hours, and we got it together to gather all these stories of grit and sheer force of will. But most importantly, I've witnessed grace. I've witnessed what can only be called unconditional love. So this is a personal project. It is separate from the work I'm doing with the podcasts for the Brian Grant Foundation. But do stay tuned for On Time with Brian Grant, because those will also be interesting interviews. So I'll be speaking in first person, even though I'm telling the story mostly from the perspective of Kevin. This is a series of vignettes. It's not sequential, but these are reflections generously shared from everyone on the front lines. The first scene is somewhat contemplative. It's meditative because it happens in the dark, where we can see ourselves a little better sometimes. The road is windy with several sheer drops to one side, and Carrie Ray hops into the van when she's done. Her face is absolutely glowing as if she's seen something divine. These things escape language. Carrie shared that her late husband, Harry, had been with her, and what he wanted more than anything was to be able to walk again. He suffered a stroke after DBS, and he could not walk unassisted. He had had somebody with him, so disappointed. But when Carrie Ray turned her headlamp off, they walked together in the mist down this dark, winding path. Before seeing the oasis of the van light, this epiphany came during a tough spot where the road was slick and could have been scary, but she knew she wasn't alone. And this theme has been repeated through every single participant. They felt they were lifted, carried along inexplicably. And here's a reflection from Carrie Ray directly as well. My heart is so full walking this relay with these particular people. An amazing experience. I was so inspired by my teammates. PD is a battle, mentally, physically, emotionally draining. The determination, strength, and vulnerability we shared is what made it special. We cheered our hearts out for each other. We laughed till our side hurt. We sang. We were silly, serious, profound, profane. When Harry had his stroke, he just wanted to walk. I got to do that for him and with him. He got me through this dark night. And I would add, this reminds me of the dark night of the soul, St. John of the Cross. But let's start at the beginning of the race with Amber Hesford, a single mother who flew in from Texas with an injury and powered through. She kicked off the race where everyone was just cheering. It was one of those moments where you couldn't help but be moved. She faltered part of the way in, but seemingly out of nowhere, as she pulled to the side of the road, a woman came and said, "May I walk with you?" Her name was Ethel, and Ethel and Amber kept going down the road. This was a small miracle, a God shot. Not soon after, Amber would be stalled once again because her feet were bleeding. And without hesitation, Maggie, the driver, the Danica Patrick driver, who was quite amazing, and Jenny, the physical therapist, they jumped out of the van and attended to her wounds. Todd also stepped in to relieve Jenny. And as the walk continued, it was truly team effort. I mean, it was just witnessing Amber's metamorphosis was like watching a deer in the headlights turn into one of the most powerful forces of nature. It was beautiful and an inspiring kickoff. But let's go back to Jenny. She's the physical therapist who helped get this whole thing going. She was the organizing element, one of many. And Jenny Wilhelm is a seasoned and brilliant physical therapist who frequently volunteers for Brian Grant's foundation. But her evaluations and her health monitoring and the training tips and all that she gave us show that she had a heart bigger than Texas, just like Amber. Bigger than Portland, bigger than this event. I don't think Jenny even slept. She was tireless in her support, just like Maggie, the driver. They used their skills when we couldn't move. They helped us through the thickest part of this. I've never seen such an adept driver. Never seen such a powerful physical therapist. This wasn't just about the physical part. This was much more about spirit and positivity and music and keeping us going. Amber has described feeling like she never had this kind of support in her life before. And I can relate. When I arrived at the end of the race to join the line, Jenny came over and took my hand. And on the other side was Todd Voigt, the Paralympian. And they led me in. They were always taking someone's hand and helping and giving up their spot so that we could shine. They were always there for us. That's what this was all about. So here's where I want to go a little bit more into a few things that are very personal. Kevin Kwok was joined by Jen Rule, his partner. And it was harder for Jen to watch Kevin falter than to do her own leg of the walk. This was so challenging because she's a selfless partner. And Amber quotes that they have allowed her to believe in love again because Jen and Kevin won this medal together. And when Jen won her medal and started to cry at the end of her tour and of her walk, she put the medal over Maggie's head because she said she deserves it for being the driver. Selfless, thoughtful. Kevin says that he loved Jen before, but this has increased boundlessly because of the participation and the way that she supported the team. And I will say the love that I have watched bloom through this, through the friendships and through relationships being strengthened, has moved me and changed me in ways I can't describe. Parkinson's is an ironic disease. You have both good on and off times, and they switch, and they're not predictable. After 13 years with Parkinson's, what I can tell you is that the off times are more frequent and severe. So this is Kevin again. Participating last week was a perfect example. During the days leading up to the Portland race, I faltered. I was really strong at first, but it was just adrenaline. I mistook that for being on. Jen walked him to the start. It was around 2 a.m. It was drizzling, and he was having brain fog. His movement was not optimal. So when team number 2324 was announced, he took off like a shot. He blasted off at that pace that we could only do before Parkinson's. And he got humbled, shut down, hit the proverbial wall, legs locking up. The body refused, the posture slumped. To encourage me, Jenny jumped out of the van again. All the people I'd passed said, "Good job, keep going, you're almost there." Half an hour passed again, and Todd came out to relieve Jenny. And so it goes, again and again, this unconditional love, this support, this grit, this grace. The crowd gasped as I almost fell as I came over the finish line. It must have taken an hour. That's what it felt like to go that last mile. It was really tough. So would the team do this part again? I think so, and here's another reason why. Todd Voigt. I have never met a more humble, talented athlete. God blessed Todd with extreme athletic prowess as an Olympic rower and then added Parkinson's to further challenge him. He has risen to the occasion. To be around him is to know greatness. He will compete in the 2022 World Rowing Championships next month. And did I mention that his partner in the crew is blind? Todd was in the top 2%, right along with Mike, who was in the other van. And I want to mention that Mike took care of his father all through high school. When the rest of us were partying, he was taking care of a man with Parkinson's. And Mike is a pretty incredible human being as well. I have not interviewed the other van yet, but I hope to do another podcast with that. So Todd mentioned to Amber and to me that we've had a rough hand dealt with our PD, but he reminded us of this blind rower on his team and that challenges were different, but that we could persevere with grit, determination. The on-off periods in most disabilities don't exist. We are lucky to have a few moments of respite. The ethos of the team and the tribe. The people with the disabilities can soar if we're given a chance. We can, in fact, do anything. This is how the team makes us feel. So, would we do it again? Back to that question. Absolutely, in every way, shape, and form. I cannot believe that we actually finished. Some days, I know that it was by the grace of God. The chemistry, the bonding, the friendship, the memories will stay with us for a lifetime. Like summer camp in grade school, it's so hard to say goodbye. But I do want to mention that I wasn't there to physically witness this, although I had been in Portland for a while. And seeing this through Kevin's eyes is even better. I absolutely feel supported. I know that everyone on this team feels supported. And I will say that if you are a person with a disability, remember, there's nothing that can stop you. If you can remember one thing, you are not alone. Duality is indeed a lie. We cannot do this alone. There is only one way to get through this, to transcend the body and to stay in the group. This is the experience of a lifetime. In the words of Jenny Wilhelm, Kevin is the king of one-liners. He's quiet, listening, processing, thinking. Nothing gets past him. He's brilliant. He kept everyone on our toes. He lifted our spirits. He made us laugh with comments like, "Am I blocking you in the camera, Brian?" To jokes about making out with his partner in the back of the van, his partner, Jen. His relationship, may we all be so lucky. Amber Hesford often said that this makes her believe in love again. She didn't want to be a burden to anybody, but now she sees it a different way. They have magic together. It's quiet, but unrelenting support. He's the first to cheer her on, and she navigates the care partner role flawlessly. I could tell it was hard for her to watch him struggle. They shared legs. It makes me tear up just thinking about it. Oh, one more thing. Kevin has a lot of stiffness. So when we would wait, he would stretch, doing Tai Chi, doing three-legged dog and lizard poses. He's just amazing. The epitome of what we should all be as humans, not just Parkinson's. One last thing that I want to mention. This team of volunteers came for an international and national community. This is bigger than just a race. It is to raise awareness. And holding Brian Grant's hand, myself going over the line, when I had so generously been given a space, even though I was not capable physically of doing the walk, was a moment in time that I can't ever forget. With Kevin and Todd and Jen and all the people surrounding us, and of course, Amani, Brian's son, it was an event that I feel so privileged to have been part of. We really are just walking each other home. This was symbolic of all of life. This was something beyond any race. And life is short. We only have today. This kept us in the moment, and it changed the way I see my disability to a place of possibility, to enablement instead of ableism. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to my volunteer teammates. I am fortunate enough to call friends and family. And thank you to Harry and to Carrie Ray. This was for you, Harry. I am so moved by these reflections. Amber shared with me yesterday that believing in love again has lifted her spirits beyond words. And I too believe in love again. Thank you to my teammates. And thank you for allowing me to share your reflections on this podcast. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the second podcast with more details coming soon.
Thank you for listening to It's Not About the Race with Heather Kennedy. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening right now so you won't miss upcoming episodes. This podcast is produced by Griggs Productions.